One day, a long time ago, in the valley of Elah, the Philistines lined up on one hill and the Israelites on another, with a valley between them. A man named Goliath from the city of Gath came out from the Philistine camp to challenge the Israelites. Now Goliath was over 9 feet tall. That's almost 3 feet taller than LeBron James, and wore bronze armor that weighed about 125 pounds and a bronze helmet. His legs were also protected by bronze armor, and he carried a bronze javelin slung over his shoulder. His spear was as thick as the bar on a weaver's loom. That's really thick. And its iron head weighed about 15 pounds. That's heavier than most bowling balls. He yelled,
"I am a Philistine, you slaves of Saul. Choose one of your men to fight me. If he wins and defeats me, we will be your slaves. But if I win and defeat him, you will be our slaves. Here and now I challenge the Israelite army. I dare you to pick someone to fight me."
In another part of the region lived a simple shepherd boy named David. Now David was someone who was after God's own heart. He completely loved God and gave thanks, praised him multiple times a day. He was the youngest of 8 brothers, and his job was being a shepherd of his father's flock of sheep. Although small in stature, David was able to hold his own in battles with bears and lions over protecting the sheep because he knew his faith in God would protect him. Some of David's brothers were fighting in the war against the Philistines. That morning, David's father had asked him to bring food to his brothers and to some of the commanders of the army. When he brought his brothers their food and asked how things were going, they in return were not nice or pleasant with him. They accused him of abandoning his shepherding job to come watch the battles.
"David, what are you doing here? You're not strong enough. David, go back home to the sheep. David, just go home."
David looked around and stared at Goliath, hearing all the awful things the giant was yelling. He started to question why no one was challenging this jerk. When the other soldiers heard David asking this, they carried him off to meet King Saul. David stood before the king and said,
"Your Majesty, no one should be afraid of this Philistine. I will go fight him."
The king gave him the most curious of looks, mostly due to his small stature when compared to the other soldiers of Israel. David pleaded his case to King Saul about how he faced off against wild beasts and came out the victor every single time because of his faith in God, and how this battle would be no different. King Saul just stared at the small, frail-looking kid in front of him. At the same time, he couldn't deny the determination and faith that David had in God. He reluctantly said,
"Okay, go and let the Lord be with you."
He then ordered for David to be dressed in his own armor. Let's just say things were not looking good, as nothing seemed to fit David. Finally, growing frustrated, David said,
"I can't fight like this. I can hardly move."
So he took the armor off. He took his shepherd's stick and then picked up 5 smooth stones from the stream and put them in his bag to go meet with Goliath. The Philistine giant started walking toward David. He kept coming closer. And when he got a good look at David, he was angry because he thought that the Israelites were mocking him. He said to David,
"What's that stick for? Do you think I'm a dog?"
Goliath challenged David to attack him and shouted that,
"When I'm done with you, I will give your body to the birds and animals to eat."
David answered,
"You are coming against me with a sword and spear, but I have come against you with the name of Lord Almighty, the God of Israelite armies, which you have disrespected. This very day the Lord will put you in my power. I will defeat you and cut off your head. I will give the bodies of the Philistine soldiers to the birds and animals to eat. So come at me, bro."
Upon hearing this, Goliath gave out a hearty laugh.
Ah ha 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 ha!
Then Goliath started walking toward David again, and David ran quickly toward the Philistine battle line to fight him. He reached into his bag and took out a stone, placed it in his sling, twirled it above his head multiple times, and slung it at Goliath. The stone hit him on the forehead so hard that it knocked him down, and Goliath fell so hard to the ground that someone was recorded saying, "Timber!" And so, without a sword, David defeated Goliath with his faith in God and a sling and a stone. He ran to Goliath, stood over the giant's body, took Goliath's sword out of its sheath, and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw that their hero was defeated, they ran away. King Saul called for David to come back so that he could thank him properly and show his appreciation. All the soldiers and the king flooded David with praise. David was humbled because he knew that he wouldn't have won without God being with him. He gave all credit and glory to God for giving him the power and courage to overcome his obstacles. The end.